record button so people can capture this later. Hit the auto button. That should do the cameras, and we're good to go. So welcome back, everybody, to iSigma Live. We're at the podcast or in the podcasting room in the beautiful lobby here. And I'm just so excited to be joined by Sam Spaccamonti. I got it pronounced correctly, I hope. And Pritesh, Sonu, who are you business partners at Octopus?
Yeah, we're co-founders of Octopus.
Co-founders. So first of all, tell me a little bit about Octopus SaaS. What is it?
Yeah, for sure. So Octopus is it's a really in a nutshell, it's a end-to-end operating system for medical waste disposal companies and paper shredding companies. So everything from customer acquisition all the way through to servicing, billing, manifesting, in best-in-class customer portal as well. So our system is an entire operating system for the industries.
So end-to-end from the CRM all the way through.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. Everything from customer acquisition and again, it's a step-by-step process that I've been using in my personal businesses for many years now. So I locally here in San Diego, I own San Diego Medical Waste and Shred Docks, which is a local paper shredding company.
I've seen the trucks. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the goal there has always been operate with most efficiently as I possibly can, and I had an experience in building out different CRMs, everything from Salesforce and so on and so forth. I cut my teeth in websites about 10 years ago, and I started building those. And about 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to go big with something in the med waste and paper shredding industry. And at the time, my thought was, hey, I want to really build out my website so it has a national presence. So I scoured the internet trying to find somebody that can bring me to the next level as far as that skill set goes. And as luck would have it, I ran into
Pritesh, yeah.
And at first, I don't think that he realized what I was asking him for. So he spent some personal time with me, and as it kind of come together, we become friends, and our schedules were aligning. So we were, our families go to bed, and we would get up, get online, and we'd kind of start to go through the process.
Yeah.
And we became friends over about a year's period of time. And then when the idea or the opportunity, if you will, for Octopus came up, I called Pritesh and I just said, "Hey, I've got an idea." And as it turns out, I was on the side of a highway, and I pulled over, because I knew I had reception, and I just kind of soul vomited him for a good half an hour. And he just said, "Let's do it."
Let's do it. So did you? So your kind of relationship started when you were working the shredding operations first, not the software at that moment in time.
No. So I've been in the medical waste business for 12 years now, and paper shredding for just at 9. So I had been doing that for quite some time. I have a team that operates it here locally, and it really allowed me to try to figure out how to work more on my business rather than in my business.
Than in the business. It's really interesting to get into software. I mean, as things are changing and in an industry that's fairly mature in some ways and constantly changing, what made you make that decision as opposed to use something that's already on the shelf?
It's a great question. So, we were stuck in some operational inefficiencies where I had, adopted a routing and scheduling software, but it was disassociated from the billing, and it was and my CRM was very different, and that was all custom built out by me for me. And we just were so fragmented, and I kept on going to the marketplace, and all the same stuff was just being offered. I would talk to people and say, "Hey, does it work for you?" And some people were moving to a software that others are moving away from, and it was just this bounce back and forth. And when we did take a look at any of them, they were older and more archaic than what I had already been going on, and there was just an incredible opportunity there. And because of my background in developing CRMs and sales processes and websites, and then when I met who I think is probably the best in the business as far as this goes, Pritesh was really able to just skyrocket our ability to to create the operational processes that we want. And as it turns out, as I started operating on the software, some of the industry contacts that I have would see it, and the first thing they would say is, "Where did you buy this new software?" And I told them we're developing it, and virtually every single one said, "When can I get on this?"
When can I get on it?
Right.
Yeah. So did you find? Oh, go on, please.
Hey, I'd just like to add, when we ran into Sam, like when he found our company. So I've been running my company, a software development company, into product engineering, AI, ML engineering, and we were always building software which was more like a horizontal, and building products which are more horizontal kind of a SaaS, right? And then when Sam spoke about medical waste transportation and paper sharing transportation, I saw an opportunity to kind of get into vertical SaaS, getting deeper into the industry and solving a problem for the industry, and not really talking about the features my product brings, but the real problems in the industry that can be solved. And that is where it was like a very easy decision for me when Sam called to say, hey, you know what? This is the industry, you know it, you are an expert. I understand technology.
See?
Let's get together, and that's a perfect solution because and that's where the industry is right now. Like you have to solve a problem where the software becomes part of your operation, right? That's the opportunity I saw. Not just create features and sell it. And with Sam's passion for the industry to solve, and he has lived with those issues over the last 10, 12 years, it was a lot easier to really understand and come up with a solution. And the partnership worked out great. And that's why you'll see that we both are very, very passionate about what we have built, because we know that this solves a problem. There are companies running on it, and everybody who has seen it actually gives a rave review about what it does. I mean, we get into these conversations where people would come and say, hey, and they're just looking at the software and say, hey, what about this? What about this situation? What about this situation? And Sam has answers for everything to say, you do this, and they're like, oh my God, you have thought through everything. And everybody was like, there's no software out there which does it. And it also helped us because we're looking deeper into the industry. It also helped us to look at different bowls we can actually have in terms of putting a CRM on top or putting an invoicing and billing system to it, so that the people in the industry can have a one-stop shop to say, hey, if I come to Octopus, it actually is such an intelligent system that really helps me with the whole operations. I don't really have to worry about working with 3 or 4 or 5 software and integrate that and be worried about it. So that was, I think, what really kind of, when we started the conversation and we kept building on it, like any founder, like as co-founder, we would just get a call and brainstorm ideas and say, yeah, this makes sense. And we would look into the eyes and say, yeah. And we have a lot of, I live in San Francisco, he's in San Diego.
Yeah.
So we would have a lot of virtual meetings. And sometimes he comes over, and sometimes I come over. So it kind of helps in kind of brainstorming and some being a sounding board at times and, coming up with ideas. So, but now we have a product which is a lot more than MVP. It's like a fully functional software. We have customers on it, and we are very excited to showcase that.
And when you're showcasing here?
Yes, we are.
So when, just take me back a little. So when did you start, when you pulled over on the side of the road? How long ago was that? So how long has it taken from, the suddenly this kind of light bulb moment is like, I need to build this, and I've got this great business partner I could do this with, to now you're ready to launch it?
Sure. So, there's kind of two answers there. The first one is I've been cataloging specific business processes since day one. I started as I was the driver, I was the salesman, I cleaned the bathroom. It was just
every hat,
right?
yeah.
I hired too late. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but every single time I would make one, I would say, well, hey, I'm not smart enough to remember what to do in this situation. I just need to write it down. And so I write down my processes. So when I hired my first employee, I just said, this is all of the things that I do, and here's a set of instructions. And at the time, it was like legitimately just written on notepads, right?
Yeah.
And then I spent a lot of time trying to digitize that. So I've been developing every data point that Octopus winds up collecting. I've been developing that for 10 plus years. It wasn't until just in May of 24 that it just, hit me like a ton of bricks what we should be doing. And I called Pritesh. Literally, it was 20 minutes after this hit me, and I said, I've got to talk to you about this. At the time, we weren't as good as friends as we are now. So, we set a date, and on that date is when I literally pulled over and I just soul vomited all over him on what we had to do.
But it's still only 2 years ago, so that's a lot. But one of the hardest parts of building out software is actually having all the correct user stories and the processes so that you can actually then do all the testing and everything. So you gave him this gold mine of procedures and all written down and said, this is what I need.
Yeah, it really was. And that is the power of, I tell my team, it's the power of Pritesh. I've never met anybody that can understand these very complex movements, especially in med waste, when you're talking about the transfer of waste between multiple transfer stations, and frankly, like different waste streams and where they wind up going, and and cradle to grave, if you will. So Pritesh he had just such a unique ability to dive into the details with me, and then his ability to run, one of the most amazing software teams I've ever experienced in my entire life, was a true dream come true. Pritesh should really talk.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about that.
Yes, I think one thing was feeling is the same for me too. When I ran to Sam, somebody who was an operator of a business and who was also very tech savvy, I came across somebody who was able to translate a lot of these into the language which the engineers could also understand. That was a great way and that actually helped us in having a good partnership. The other thing which we also realized was if we go with the traditional approach of building, this was going to be really difficult to really build out. Okay. So we went in a very fluid way where we would have a more like an agile approach to say every 2 weeks we will have something getting built out, demonstrated. And we learned along the way. We learned, oh, this is not going to work. Sam said, you know what, as an operator, I don't like something like this. Let's change it. So that fluidity actually helped us in coming up with such a robust software where we don't really have, and Sam was also behind the scene talking to a lot of people in the industry and saying, hey, I built out this particular feature, how do you like it? So to get the user feedback as we are building it was another great thing which does not usually happen when you actually work in different software build, right?
Yeah.
Usually you build it out, you take it out in the market, and
you
start seeing issues, and so the cycle becomes longer. In our case, we started sometime in August of 2024, and May of 2025 in the Waste Expo in Vegas, we actually demonstrated the software.
Wow.
So it was that fast. And of course, there were certain modules which are not done, like billing and invoicing, which are like critical modules for us. So we kind of kept working on it, and then we launched it in a few months post that, like actual beta launch with some of our beta testers and all. So that fluidity and having multiple Scrum teams. So we have like multiple teams which work around the clock. So that enables us to use more time within the day. So let's say about 16 hours in a day at least we are able to utilize to move things faster. So these are a couple of things which I think helped first to get the requirements, really understand from a user standpoint what is he really trying to kind of achieve, right? And get that translated. Plus also having that fluidity to say, yeah, I know what I'm building might actually go down the drain because it might not live up to what it needs to do, but be ready to really change that
so many people don't do that. I mean, it's really great to hear that you kind of had a foundation with your own business, so you kind of knew how it should be run. But you're not the only input. There's other people who can provide really valuable insight, which can enrich the product. But then having that ability to then change that very, very quickly, that's really a beautiful way to develop software today, isn't it? Because you can't wait for the monolithic build to come out in 3 months' time.
Yeah, and we were able to do something unique because my team has been operating the way I need them to operate for many years. We haven't lost a driver in probably 7 years at San Diego Medical.
Wow, congratulations.
It's a true honor, real professionals. And one thing is that, when I hand it to my lead tech, his name's Ben, I've already bench tested it. And I've done this tens of thousands of times. I hand it to him, and he goes out, and it is different when you're in front of a customer. You know, you have a medical waste container, and you're trying to get signatures on a handheld, and there's so much going on, and you're trying not to, you know, be an eyesore.
Yeah.
You know, my drivers would say, "Hey, we need this to be one-handed operation. We need this. We need this," and we were able to deploy that so quickly, and you know, it was like turning a battleship into a speedboat with how quickly we can adjust fire. And then when I would understand those details and be able to convey them back to the dev team, that was the magic of Pritesh. We would, in some situations, we would go to bed with an issue, and I would wake up to a solution. And then we would go, and I would give it back to my guys, and they would say, "Yes, this is exactly what I needed the whole entire time." So it's really been a dream come true.
That flow is fantastic, isn't it? Having I've fortunately had big engineering teams offshore, so similar thing that I've been able to do that, and it is such a, I know what you mean. It's such a buzz to wake up in the morning and there's like, "Hey, go check this out," and you see it.
Follow the sun model.
Yeah, it is so cool. So one of the interesting things to me, like I told you, 15 minutes will go by. We're going to be long on this one. Okay. But the you know, one of the things is interesting as you're pivoting now, really away from, as you say, you can get out of the business because you've got a good, solid team who've been there, you know, a long time, that's wonderful, isn't it? So now you got to pivot into a software company, you know, with all the support and everything. How are you seeing that different? Is that exciting? How are you thinking about scaling with that?
Yeah, it's a crazy question. I don't know if I'm totally ready to answer it, you know, because while I have this amazing team at San Diego Medical Waste and Shred Docs, you know, Octopus definitely has taken up most of my time.
Yeah.
To me, it's actually the most enjoyable thing I've done in a long time. You know, I really like med waste. I know every detail, and it is a challenge to grow a company like that. But this is a little bit more unique because I get to use a lot of my creativity as well. And I'm not saying that there's no creativity in hazardous waste, but at the end of the day, you know, it's more about safety and being precise, running a profitable business. At Octopus, I get to name it Octopus, or I gotta do things that I just didn't really get to do.
You can use a little bit of your artistic flair,
right?
In there.
Exactly. And it's been pretty amazing to be able to do that. And the other amazing thing is that when I think of something, Pritesh has this incredible marketing team, and you know, I can come to them with an idea, and when they serve up a solution, it's always just class act, and they're doing such a good job with that. And again, that's the power of my partner Pritesh here is that I get to literally come up with any wild idea that I possibly can, and he understands and figures out how to get it done. And you know, I couldn't be more grateful as a partner to have.
You seem very lucky. Yeah.
And I would like to add one more thing. So from Sam's perspective, what I have learned from him, right, from his vision and what he's trying to do, leaving the med waste or his shredding business is not like an option. Like, it's not a very happy option. But I guess the impact you can create in the industry with Octopus is going to be manyfold than what he can do as SD med waste and Shred Docs. And that's what I've heard him say, that, hey, the kind of impact I can create in this industry is huge, because we get deeper into the industry and we are kind of creating different channels of engaging with customers and our generators and everything else. So there's so many other different pieces to the software Octopus. I know you talked about it earlier. So we have a marketplace, we have Octopus Connect. We are able to kind of make every transporter, every paper shredder like a national shredder, right? Because they can actually now work in a network of all these transporters and shredders to really work on. So the kind of impact Octopus is creating in the industry, or will create in the industry, is so huge that it's worth even to leave your baby in the case of
but that's tough, isn't it? It's very tough.
And to really, and like he's spending like most of his time in Octopus, as you can imagine. Same for me. Like, I have a company which I've been running for the last 7 years now, which is a software development company. And we have multiple initiatives, but Octopus is definitely consuming a lot more because we are deep into the industry now, and we want to be really be impactful, known in this area to be the guys who are really kind of the guys we work with and we operate on. So that's where we are.
Well, I see again. I used to have a very large customer service team, 150 agents, and they were flicking through goodness knows how many screens, like 8 screens to follow something. So having everything in one package, all done. You're not trying to build third-party dashboards, sitting on the top, sucking data, getting out of sync with each other or whatever. To be in one product is a huge benefit.
You know, and it's also the relationships that have really been propelling us forward, right? Like, you know, we've got Lex with Shred Tech or Scott with URisk. These are people that have really taken a few minutes and kind of seen the vision of Octopus and then taken me under their wing in the shredding industry. And it's been really incredible to see, you know, how many groups of people really enjoy themselves and do great business together. The paper shredding industry is not what my strong point was. You know, I've been mostly medical waste. And even like the ability to hear some of these folks, the way that they understand the true security of the data that they're dealing with, the industry is really headed in the right direction. You know, I look at how they're NAID certified, and it really motivates me to have a software that actually supports the initiative, right? Because it's not just a commodity. This is data security. This is something in which you don't really think about until it's been breached. Right.
I've mentioned in one of the earlier podcasts, I've been on the wrong end of this twice. You know, so I would tell people, don't be on the wrong end of it. You know, picking up the pieces. You need to think about compliance and all those ahead of time.
Absolutely. And you know, I was talking to a good buddy of mine here. I've met here and become good friends, Chad, and Chad says NAID certification is what you must have. It really is a level of professionalism that you must follow. And you know, it's become apparent to us that we need to make sure that Octopus continues to support the narrative of data security, and that's really what our software does. Is it allows a company to operate from start to finish, and it even delivers the right notifications to your customers that their data has been destroyed. So it's good for us to really understand how the industry works at such a deeper level, so that way we can continue to grow and to support it.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, I usually end with a difficult question, but I'm not going to because you used your creativity and you named it Octopus, and I just got to know why.
Okay. So we were. I went to San Francisco, meet with Pritesh, and we spent all day together. He brought me back to the airport, and we said, well, what are you gonna name this thing? and he's like, I don't know. What do you think? So we were talking, and he had mentioned that there's this certain parrot that was just very smart, and I was like, yeah, that's smart parrot. Okay, I'm trying to think through this. And I go to my gate, and there's this random machine, and it's a fortune-telling machine of all things. And I shit you not. And it tells me, do you want a short story, a medium story, or a long story? And I'm standing in kind of like an empty terminal, per se. So I picked medium story, and out spits this ticket. And of all things, it goes through this how smart this octopus was at solving problems, and I text Pritesh, and I just said, "Octopus?" ? And as it turns out, you're not going to forget it, right?
No, you're not going to forget it. That is absolutely brilliant. Do you still have the little piece of paper?
We do. As a matter of fact.
You should do that.
And really, that's really what Octopus really is, because we have our central operating system, which is Octo 365, and we call that the intelligent core. That's where your AI agent sits. But then we have different arms. We have OctoPay. So Pritesh and I didn't have a bolt-on solution. We actually went out and created a full payment processing. So we're payment processing internal, and the core knows what that arm and leg is doing. Same with Octo Connect, which is the ability to contract and subcontract between two Octopus users. It's a real flawless way to grow your business. through contracting and subcontracting. And the intelligent core knows everything that arm's doing as well. And there's so many other arms that we have.
So the tentacles is a perfect analogy. Then
it really is.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you
But
for that
thank you
question.
both. Pritesh, thanks for joining us as well, because I wasn't expecting you to come
No,
on.
thank you. I know I somehow got the timing wrong. So I was down here sometime earlier when you were having another podcast. So I thought maybe there's some change. So I should have checked.
No,
But yeah, like on Octopus, I'd like to add just one more thing. Eventually, we wanted to stay with the theme of intelligence because that's what we are seeing in the industry. And Octopus turned out to be a pretty smart and intelligent creature with multiple brains. And I'll say, yeah, here it is.
it just worked out perfectly. Well, it's fantastic that you're here with it, able to see it. So I'm going to make sure I come along and take a look. I encourage anybody here at the show to come down. What's your booth number? 715. Pritesh nearly paused there, but so on booth 715. If anybody else is watching or listening to this later on and wasn't able to go to the show, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah,
Octopus
SaaS.
OctopusSaaS.com, and it has all the information. You can submit a
Perfect.
form, you can call a number, everything.
And they tell you, wonderful. Well, look, thank you so much for joining me. Most of these conversations are, we just go down rabbit holes, which is fun, and I think we could go down a lot of rabbit holes, or maybe down a lot of tentacles. Thanks for joining me.